Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Journal Star Sports Podcast. This is Dave Reynolds from the Journal Star Sports Department. I'm here today with Gavin Sullivan, the director of the Illinois Irish, I almost said Peoria Irish.
Yeah, long time ago, but
yeah.
yes.
Illinois Irish AAU basketball program. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again. Yeah. Enjoy doing this.
Yeah, last time you were here, it's been a while, but we kind of discussed the finished product of your program, AAU basketball, the tournaments, all the glory stuff, I guess.
Yep.
And now we wanted to talk a little bit more today about the process, the beginnings of, say, I'm a parent. How do I get my kid involved in an AAU program? And I think maybe that's a good place to start. Say I have a 14-year-old kid, boy or girl, because you now have a girls program. And they show some basketball potential. What do we do? Do we call the Irish? Do we call you? How does it work?
We get a lot of interest through our website, and whether it's calling me or our girls director, Dustin McDougall, we'll get a lot of interested player forms, which they can fill out online, and we'll reach out to them. We also do a little bit of scouting and recruiting ourselves, not so much at the 14U level, but once people get to high school, we go out and watch games, and you see who the better players are through newspapers or, social media and things like that. You guys give us a great a great source of information like that, like a lot of the newspapers do. So it's kind of a combination of things. There is people that are really go-getters, and they search us out. But at the same time, there's a lot of people who don't know about AAU. They've heard about it, or they think local travel is the same as some, all programs are the same, and really all programs kind of are probably at different levels around Central Illinois a little bit. So it's kind of a mix. I guess there's really no specific right answer. It's kind of, if you really want it, people will search you out. If you're good enough, we'll search you out, type thing, and so will other programs. So it's kind of a collaboration of both sides kind of meeting sometimes. So.
Yeah. And for the kids that aren't searched out, you have tryouts, and you have player evaluations that you provide as well.
Yeah, we do what we call combines, which are every once in a while, like a 2-hour workout where it's open to anybody. Anybody can come in, and our coaches, drill them to death. It's all individual skill development. And it allows us to see different kids from different areas that we might not know about, or just give them exposure to maybe a different type of training that they're not getting at school or in their small town, or just want to be pushed in a different way. But we also have tryouts because we can't get out and see everybody. We don't know everybody. I'll throw out a name people might not remember, but his name was Taylor Baxter. He went to Fieldcrest. He graduated in 2010. He came to our tryout as a sophomore, and 6'5", and freak athlete, and I never even heard of him, and he went to North Dakota State and then transferred back to a D3 school to be back closer to home and things like that, but I never would have even known about him if he didn't come to tryout. So there is people that slip through the cracks now. Sure. Social media and things have blown up, and it's a little bit harder to not know about somebody that's pretty good, but at the same time, there is kids like that all over the place. So,
and really, AAU has become the route to college basketball. I mean, more so than probably ever before back in the day. Coaches maybe would go to the high schools more so, but now with AAU, it's sort of a one-stop shopping. They can go to a tournament and see a lot of kids and in more competitive environments a lot of times. So for that parent who wants to get their dream is a college basketball scholarship or at least experience, would you encourage them to definitely play AAU ball? I mean, it's really hard to not play and get noticed, I'm thinking.
I would, if that's their passion, it is definitely needed. If you're in a big market area like Chicago, where, the newspaper might cover all the way out to the, 45 minutes out to the suburbs, and you're getting a lot of national media or local media that goes to games and things like that, it's probably not as needed, but it's still, you're behind the 8 ball if you're not playing. Where Central Illinois, hey, the Journal-Star covers, you know, the greater Peoria area for the most part. The Pentagraph down in Bloomington covers the Bloomington area for the most part. So there's 2 different papers. Champaign is the News-Gazette, and they cover Champaign. And so it's a little bit more spread out down here. And so, like, unless you're looking at all 3 of those, you're probably not knowing everybody. Where you go to the Tribune, you know, or the Sun-Times or whatever, you can see everything because they put it all under one.
Sure.
But the AAU realm, so many people see you multiple times that don't get to see you during the year. You know, I would say that there's a handful of scouts that have been down to see local Illinois teams this year in the state, and there's hundreds, you know, and it's all, I can count them probably in one hand. And I would say most of them saw them at Pontiac, which isn't really even coming down to me, you know, much farther than that, and that's the Pontiac Holiday Tournament. So in order for people definitely down here, you know, AAU is a must to be exposed to college coaches and have college coaches be exposed to your talent.
And you mentioned tryouts, and this is kind of timely because you've got tryouts coming up here pretty soon, don't you, for all your age groups?
Yeah. We just had our junior high tryouts for boys and girls the past couple weeks. And our high school tryouts, the girls start next weekend, and then the boys won't happen till March 11th, till when people start getting knocked out and things like that. But it's every year I get older, and I swear the season comes around faster. You know, you'd think that you'd have your ducks in a row to say, hey, the off season nice and slow, but it seems like it gets faster every year. But it's definitely exciting.
And I think you told me that last year you had, what, 140 some kids that tried out at the high school level?
Yeah, it was really big. Last year, our junior high boys, we just had, I think, 73 try out, and we didn't put it in any newspaper. We didn't put it, you know, it's just social media. And then the people that have filled out interest forms, and honestly, word of mouth just kind of travels. But we were really encouraged about that because we don't really go out and recruit, you know, junior high. I might talk to some people. If people give me, hey, there's a kid over here that's really good, I might look into it and ask some people in those areas and then reach out to their parents or something. But I'm not going to junior high games to to find the next, you know, we'll wait till they get to high school to find those guys. So,
and what's a tryout like? I mean, how much can a kid expect to move on from there and make a roster?
The tryout, we do a little bit of everything. We do some skill breakdown. Then we'll go into like little drills where they're shooting, passing, some one-on-one, three-on-three type of drills, and then we scrimmage at the end. There's no, I would say, rhyme or reason to any of it. It's just to see different aspects of it. Some kids are really good doing skill work when there's no defense, and then you put defense in front of them, and they're not as good as they were, you know, ball handling by themselves, and vice versa. Hey, there's kids that aren't very good at the skill stuff, but when you put somebody in front of them, they're a little bit more comfortable with that because they're not doing all these crazy 2-ball drills or, you know, cone drills and things like that. So when it comes to the, you know, evaluation of players at our tryouts, there's a lot of things that go into it. You know, overall skill level always helps, but the size of the position, you know, what can you do besides just being that position? You know, if you're just a shooter, what else can you do? Can you guard? You know, do you have length? Do you have athleticism? Can you dribble? You know, are you unselfish? So it's a lot like recruiting for a college. You know, we can't take the 10 best players. We have to find the 10 best pieces. You know, I would say to any parent out there, you know, if you go watch a tryout, usually the best players are the guards. You know, every once in a while you might see some bigs that are really dominant, and you say, oh, he's dominant big. But the guards handle the ball so much that they usually stand out. Well, I'm not going to take 10 guards. You know, you got to in AAU. It's not like high school. You got to have bigs that can rebound or guys that can go up and get rebounds above the rim because there's 4 or 5 other guys on the floor that can go do that. So, I you know, you got to treat it like it's college, you know, and we're going to recruit guys and we're going to evaluate guys like that more than just, hey, we're going to take the 10 best, or, you know, hey, we're going to keep the 10 nicest kids, you know, type thing.
So maybe of the tryouts, maybe half those kids land on the roster?
Like last year we had like I said, about 140, and we had at our high school boys age group, we had 232, so we had 7 teams, so about 70 kids. So now it won't happen like that all the time that we have that many teams. But that's where it's going to, is there's enough talent in Central Illinois to have multiple teams. It's just providing them with the same thing that we give our top guys. Like, I'm not going to bring in a coach, or I'm not going to do a disservice to adding a third team when I don't have a guy that buys into what we do. You know, we take a lot of pride. Our coaches do. They do a great job of buying into, like, creating a next level mindset is kind of what we want to approach. We only get them 1 or 2 days a week for practice at most. But our job is to get them better mentally, to get them better skill-wise, and provide them with exposure. And I think we do a good job of that, but I don't want to keep adding teams if I can't provide that for, you know, the third team or the fourth team. And that's the other thing I would tell parents, is don't get caught up on what team you're on, in the sense of, there's a lot of people that would be like, well, am I on your elite team or your select team? And I'm like, well, I could call it A and B. I could call it black and green. I could call it elite and select. You're always going to ask which one's the top. And, hey, I don't discredit anybody. Like, hey, everybody wants to be part of the premium or the best, you know, team, but there's 10 spots. There's a lot more than 10 good players in Central Illinois, especially when we're going all the way to Danville. We've had kids from Iowa. We've had kids as far south as Robinson, which is five hours. You know, there's a lot more than 10 guys that could benefit from playing on that. And, you know, I think people have slowly bought into it, but, hey, you just want to make sure that you're in a good program that has a good reputation, that is going to give your son exposure. Matt Chastain, who's at Illinois State now, played on our second team, got a full ride to Loyola, transferred back home, wants to be at Illinois State. Nate Michael, who's a kid down at McKendree, his dad is the AD at Eastern Illinois right now, Tom Michael. He's a 1,000-point scorer at a D2 school, and he was on our second team. But they're both good enough to play with our first teams at those age groups, but they probably wouldn't have had the same success because they were sharing with a lot more guys, where they were kind of the man on that second team. And now they're that man, you know, at scholarship level schools. So they'll find you. If you're good enough, they'll find you. It's just you better be playing for a program that has a reputation like that.
And you're probably your most famous alum, Alec Peters from Washington. Great college career at Valpo, and went on. He's playing in the NBA now with the Phoenix Suns. So it can happen, you know. I mean, and I don't think he came. Maybe he did. You thought when you first saw him, is this kid going to play in the NBA?
Al's my man, and he'll tell you this. I still joke around with him about it a little bit, but he couldn't jump over a line on the court when we got him. He could shoot the ball. He was probably about 6'1". And his dad was one that reached out, and we got back to him, and you know, it worked out that way. His dad coached for us, but Al, you know, every time that I thought Al was going to kind of plateau, and that's just what he was going to be, he proved me wrong. You know, and his dad's done a great job. Coach Brown did a great job. Coach Drew and Coach Loddick over at Valpo did a great job of not letting him settle, but that's not his mindset. Isn't to settle. He's always seen a bigger picture than most kids, of mindset, work ethic, sacrifice. You know, I've seen him in the gym Christmas Eve or Christmas, and he's getting shots up while he's at home. He's called me plenty of times when he's home for 2 days, and he's like, hey, can we get in the gym in the morning? I know he does the same thing with Coach Brown. You know, so like, people see it, and it's awesome because it can be done, but people don't understand how hard it is. there's millions and millions and millions of kids that try to get to that level and never do. You know, you got to be special. A thing that I talk about with my friends all the time, we call it MB ain't. And everybody, you know, knows it as the NBA, and we say the MB ain't because it ain't for everybody. You know, and you know, with how much social media that we were talking about, you know, you can see a highlight video the night of a game. You can see, you know, all these kids get and parents get instant gratification of how good their kid is, and they've never seen what it's like at the 17U level of AAU or seen a college practice or a college game at floor level. They might sit up high or see it on TV. When you see those guys in person, they look different. You know, the size of them, the girth of them, the athleticism is just different. And you know, it takes something special, whether it's height, whether it's length, athleticism, work ethic, a combination of those things, being in the right place at the right time. That's how people get there. You know, it's not just, hey, you know, if I worked as hard as Al did, I'm still not in the NBA, you know, because I just don't have some of those attributes. We got a lot of guys. I think we got 6 now, Al being one in the NBA, 5 have played overseas. And they're all of them are 6'7" and bigger, you know, and so like that's the freaky thing about it, is not saying that guards can't go over, but everybody's just getting bigger, you know, and if you're not big, you're behind, you know, and so what are you going to do to make that up? You know, well,
the cold hard facts are 1% of all high school boys go on to play Division I basketball, 1%.
Right.
And for girls, it's a little bit higher, but not much. Then you extrapolate Division I players to the NBA, and I think it's another, what, 1 or 2%.
Yeah, if that.
So, So it's a far-flung dream, I guess, you know, but it can happen, but it's a very difficult process.
Yeah, it's a super difficult process, but that's the highest level that you could be at. You know, I mean, being a CEO of a company is probably similar, you know, things. You know, it's a dream. If you're going to chase it, you better put everything you have into it. And that's the one thing that I can say about Alec, and I don't think anybody would ever question that with him, is he put everything he has into it, you know, not going to party, not going out just to hang out. Hey, I'm going to go home and watch film. I'm going to break down this NBA game to see, you know, guys like me and what they're doing at that level to see if I can translate that to my game. You know, getting workouts in at, you know, flying in at late night and doing a workout in the morning, you know, because he knows he's going to get better, you know, taking the weight room seriously. You know, I mean, people just, I don't think they know what the sacrifice is until they have to sacrifice those things. You know, it's even like some of the college athletes. Yeah, you know, I got plenty of college athletes. I was one. Hey, everybody goes out. But in order to be great at those levels, something's got to give at some point, you know, and okay, do I stay in now because my draft stock is going up, or, you know, I'm trying to get there? It might not happen until you're a junior, but it happened, you know, and so, or, you know, hey, some of these guys are one and done, and then they get slapped in the face when they get to the NBA, because now they got to work just to survive in the NBA. You know, Cliff Alexander is one of the freakiest high school players I've ever seen in my life. I mean, being 6'8", you know, huge wingspan. I would say it got to be at least 7'2" or 7'3", and 250, and just dunking on everybody. And, you know, he's number 1 or I think he's number 2, because Jaleel was number 1 at that time in the state. And I always said to people, I said, but what happens when he can't bully people? And he's fighting in the D League right now to survive in the NBA because his skill isn't great. But he's always been able just to turn around and dunk. And, I mean, he's still doing that in the D League. But in order to be in the NBA, you got to provide – everybody can dunk in the NBA. You know, and you're not going to push Dwight Howard out of the way. You're not going to push Robin Lopez out of the way like that all the time. You know, you might catch him once in a while. But, you know, skill at that level, everything's a premium. So, you know, for everybody, you just got to keep getting better.
Yeah.
You know, so even LeBron, I mean, I'm not a LeBron guy, but I understand his talent,
Sure,
you know,
sure.
and he's special. And but I will say that he gets better every year. You know, something's changed, and he's doing things that he wasn't doing before. Kobe Bryant, you know, all these, even the guys that are at the top of the NBA are still doing the same thing. They're just that good, you know. So
yeah. Well, let's come back to your program for a minute. We mentioned the girls program has developed. Now you now have what, 4 girls teams?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a little bit more than that this year. I think we'll have 5 or 6. We're going to go down to 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay. So it's growing. The tough thing with girls versus the guys side is they have so many conflicts. So travel volleyball or travel soccer or softball. Yeah. And boys at that point, I mean, pretty much
it's basketball.
It's basketball. You know, most of them, I would say, most of our guys are basketball, football guys. We've had some baseball guys, and some of them have situations where they can still play high school baseball and then play with us on the weekends. Some of them have to choose, and they end up choosing basketball. Some we've had choose baseball, which I totally understand. But the girls' side is just a little bit more complicated because they have so many things, and they're all during that AAU time, that it makes it a little bit tougher, where the guys don't have that same number of things. And
we talked the other day about kind of the dollars and cents of the program, and you brought up a really good point. If a parent or a kid really wants that college scholarship, and they want to make a good investment in it, in a program like yours, you're probably going to spend the equivalent of a year of college tuition, room and board and everything, to go through 4 years of your program in terms of entry fees, insurance, there's travel, there's so many things that you guys aren't Mean Streets or the Mac Irvin Fire, where you're sponsored by the shoe company, and we can maybe get into that a little bit, but you know, a different setup, you know, where you guys have to pay your own way.
Yeah, definitely. I would say the vast majority of teams don't have a sponsorship. You know, they're all going to have player fees of some sort. That's how the world works. You know, if you're going to provide a service, you're probably going to pay for that service. Type thing. Now we, you know, and a lot of programs do the same thing. Now we want to make your bang for the buck as much as possible, you know. But we try to keep it as low as possible for people, but give them as much as we can provide. And like you said, parents have, you know, if they want to go to tournaments, they're going to have to pay for travel. They're going to have to pay for hotel, food when you're on the road. You know, if your family does anything else, you know, there's an extra cost. How much of your family is going? Is it just dad and play, or mom and son, or is it, you know, family of 4 is going? Well, now your spending just went up a little bit. But there's also a value that I don't think many people look at of, you know, for instance, we've had kids that have never seen Lake Michigan. We've had kids that have never flown on a plane before, and we see those first. We've had kids that, you know, sounds weird, but never had calamari before, and I'll get them calamari and I make them try it, and they're in love with it. And now everywhere we go, they ask if there's calamari on the menu. But like, it's a learning experience for them. It's a cultural thing for them. It's things that they might not ever get to do. You know, and being able to see those things and witness those things and enhance their knowledge of something else is pretty special in its own right. And I don't know that you could put a $1 sign on that. So, like anything, it's what does it mean to you? You know, everybody will look at, hey, I'm doing this to try to get a scholarship for basketball. Hey, we all are. But at the same time, you know, there's things like that just kind of get swept aside. That I don't think they see it until they look back on it a little bit, or the parents are like, oh, so my son went to Lake Michigan, who cares? But like the eyes are, they weren't there, and the eyes are as big as they've ever been, looking at this place or this bluff and stuff like that. So it's definitely a cool experience. It's just an investment. What's it worth to you?
Yeah, and you're right. It varies from family to family. Peter Hanley told me, I mean, he has a big family, and when he was playing AAU ball, he said they'd make a family vacation out of it.
Yeah.
And go, but he says his brothers and sisters were bummed out because we get to go to Indiana to watch Peter play basketball, for our family vacation. But, you do what you have to do if you've got, someone that has that great passion for the game.
Oh, definitely. And, I think it's one of those things, too. When you're young, you don't understand it. When you look back at it, hey, we went to Indianapolis, we went to Milwaukee, and even though it wasn't technically like a vacation for us, we still got to do cool things. Or I've been to that city before, or I ate at this place, and so you appreciate it later, and I think that can go for anybody. I appreciate college a lot more now that I'm out of it than when I did when I was going through it. Not that I didn't like it. It was just now I'm like, man, I wish I could go back and do a couple things different, and you just appreciate it a different way. And I think families at first, kind of say, hey, this is a business, thing for Peter or, whatever the player is. And then it's like, well, we can make it like a family thing. And, I think the good thing about AAU is it humbles people because of the talent that's on the floor. You're not seeing 1'6" kid. You're seeing usually at the 17 level that we play at, you're usually seeing 5 or 6, and then there's a 7-footer walking in the game, Thon Makers on the court, or, you're seeing guys that are, are going to be pros, and people go, okay, we're probably not as good as we thought we were, and it becomes, they relax a little bit, and that's the pressure is, hey, get a scholarship, get a scholarship, get a scholarship. And once they kind of take their mind off of that and they just let things happen, that's usually when they happen. It's not when they're pressing to get it. It's just let it happen. And that's when families relax, the vacations become, the travel becomes kind of a vacation and all that stuff. So.
And there are obviously other means to playing college basketball than the Division I level, Division II, Division III, NAIA, junior college. I mean, and as you mentioned, there are financial means available from the schools for kids to play ball beyond Division I. I mean, they can get some money just because they're a basketball player at the lower level.
Yep, it goes all the way down to JUCO. If you're a good enough athlete, you'll get money somehow, whether it's a scholarship, whether it's grant. D3s can't really technically give athletic scholarships, but there's grant money available for athletes and what you do, academically and what you do outside of just normal school, what clubs you're in or what you're involved in. There's ways to get money. So it's definitely, basketball or any sport reaches down to every level of college. So it is a good thing, and people underestimate how good basketball is down to that D3 level that, everybody first time be like, hey, your son's probably going to be at the D3 level. And they're like, oh, well, he's a D2 kid.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, man, go watch Illinois Wesleyan, go watch Augustana, a million other colleges.
Right.
But 2 local ones. Augustana was here a couple years ago.
And beat Bradley.
And I don't think they trailed.
No.
And that's, even though it's a scrimmage, but that's how good the basketball is, and not only that, I think Platteville came down here and beat Bradley at
years ago.
and they're a D3 school, and we got a lot of kids at both those schools, and people don't understand, hey, Jordan Nelson, who is I think top 5 in the state of 3-pointers made in a career, went to Evansville on a full ride. Sat behind their all-time leading scorer for a couple years and transferred back to Illinois Wesleyan and didn't start.
Yeah.
But he's still averaging, 17 to 20 those 2 years. We got 2 kids down there right now, Max Muller and Doug Wallen, and they both had Division II offers, and they're over there because they didn't want to travel that far. The academic situation is a little bit better for them. Alex O'Neill is down there, who walked on at Creighton and then had a full ride to St. Cloud State, which is D2 up in Minnesota. Some coaches changes happened. He ends up back here at Illinois Wesleyan. So there's a lot of talent, you know, at these schools that people don't. Like, we go back to, hey, they don't, if you're not there, you don't understand it. But as soon as you see it, you kind of go, oh, you know, the talent's a little bit better than I thought, and a little bit bigger too.
Yeah.
So.
And we should mention too, there are other AAU programs in the Peoria area. There's the Peoria Area Elite, the Peoria Heat, a couple that come to mind. I know there's some in Bloomington. So there are options for parents and players. Way more than there ever used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, the AAU has really exploded here in the last decade or so.
Yeah. When I was going through, you know, I graduated high school in 2002, and when I was going through, it was like the top kids played AAU.
Sure.
And now everybody has an AAU team, and I think it's a great thing. I think it exposes kids to different realms of basketball, and they get to see some different things. But everything has two sides to the story, you know, and now just because you play AAU doesn't mean you're going to get recruited, you know, or, you know, just because you're on a team doesn't mean you're getting better. You know, like anything, I guess, you got to do your research on where you're going, who you're playing with, what they've done, who they are, you know. There's a lot of teams that get put together and then they run out of money, and then they don't do what they said, and you've kind of lost some things.
Sure.
And you know, the nice thing about Peoria is that, you know, especially around here, all the teams seem to play the schedule that they put out, and that's a huge thing, because as fast as a new team pops up, you'll see a team fall apart. Sure. And so when parents are looking at these things, I always tell people it's like picking a doctor or like getting your car worked on. If you go cheap, you better be lucky. Yeah, right. You know, that it stays together and stuff like that. If you know, go with somebody that is, you know, reputable and, you know, got a lot of knowledge about, they usually tend to be a little bit pricier, you know, relative to what's around them, but there's a reason for that, and you'll see the difference, you know, when you're through it. So, you know, it's just it's definitely changed on the amount of kids playing travel ball, and how far people are willing to travel, you know. But I think it's a good thing for kids just to get out of Peoria and play somebody else, you know, in Chicago or Milwaukee or St. Louis, that maybe didn't have that opportunity, you know, 20 years ago or 15 years ago when I was going through too. So. And
let's repeat that tryout date. You said was March 11th for high school boys?
March 11th for high school boys. Our 15 and under, which would be the freshmen, will go 12 to 2 over at Metamora High School. And then our 16 and 17s, which would be the sophomores and juniors right now, will go from 2:30 to 4:30. And then our girls will go Sunday the 25th, and then March 4th. We're still working on the time. It will be in the Peoria area. We're working on gym time and availability. All the girls teams are kind of still in the playoffs right now, so they kind of got to wait a little bit to see what transpires tonight and, you know, next week or whatever. But it will definitely be in the Peoria area.
Okay. And kids just show up at the gyms at those times?
Yep. Yeah. Nothing has to be pre-registered or anything. If they're interested, you know, they can just show up and get ready to play. So. Otherwise,
if they want a little bit more information about your program, go to, what's the website?
Yeah, it's just IllinoisIrishBasketball.com, all spelled out. And it will give you, you know, history and, you know, what we've done with alumni and all that stuff too. It'll have the tryout information on there as well too. So,
well, that wraps up today's podcast. Thank you, Gavin, for joining us and filling us in on your program. And appreciate it.
No problem. Always enjoy you guys taking the time to have me up here. So anytime.
And if you want to subscribe to the Journal Star, just give us a call at 309-686-3161. That wraps up today's podcast. Thanks for joining us. So long for now.